So I'm going to explain why Sodom and Gomorrah and the great flood of Noah was God's love for the human race. Everything. The reason why the present is always changing is because creation never stops. And the amount of consciousness used to keep everything going is beyond our comprehension. We can simplify it with words like I just did to make it easier to understand why we can't understand it. But we can learn to relate to it from God's perspective. Why we're supposed to love our neighbors as ourselves. And why God loves the people that we think he hates. Why he loves the people that he flooded in the flood. Why he loves the people who were left behind in Egypt. Why he loves the people who were wiped out in Sodom and Gomorrah. God is our consciousness. We as individuals don't really exist. God essentially exists through us and experiences our existence in ways that, again, are beyond our comprehension usually. Although it's not beyond our comprehension, but it's difficult to understand. We can't put our human perspective, our individual perspective, into God's reality, except within ourselves as an individual. But when God is suffering, and by that I mean when a person suffers or any living thing suffers, one of the ways the suffering can end is with death. When God wipes himself out, he's freeing himself from the existence that everyone is trapped in. When he wiped out Sodom and Gomorrah, it was for the love of the people who were there to end their suffering and end his own suffering through them. The same thing with Moses and Egypt, because that story correlates with the catastrophe that literally wiped Africa off the face of the earth. Ended all the old empires that represented Egypt and Sodom and Gomorrah. That kind of existence of being so lost that the only happiness is coping with the suffering that we don't know how to cure ourselves of, free ourselves of, because it's one of those things where when you have that mentality, you can't feel God's presence within you, and you end up, even when you're freed from that society, you're just a walking disease spreading the cancer. The wrongness of yourself, the wisdom that you bring with you, you end up corrupting and condemning the futures of the people that you end up taking over, basically. There's the human tradition of taking in people who are lost and helping heal them and get them back on the right path. That's what really old-fashioned slavery is essentially families or society adopting people who are not right and helping them stay on the path, essentially, and help them learn to get back on the path so that they don't need that guidance anymore. But it's easy to get lost with everything that's happened in our world, and how humans have enslaved themselves and each other. But the Creator has nothing but love. There is no other emotion. I mean, it's not even really an emotion. We feel it like an emotion, but it's God's existence. You know, God loves the reality He's created for Himself as His vessel. And He loves the human race and its extension of His creation. We used to dominate the world. We used to have cities everywhere. We used to know when catastrophes would come. We would know when to move. Other creatures would follow us if they didn't have their own path to take, because we would increase their survival rate. And even if we died, we wouldn't worry about it, because if we die, we just go back to God, where we came from. And when you live in reality outside the boxes of the city we all grew up in, death is a normal part of life. It's the ultimate freedom. Now, we don't live with the goal to die, it's just the inevitability. We're supposed to live with the goal to live with God, and to live as humans, build families. So I didn't know any of this until I was healed enough to feel the connection with the Creator, and then learn what God actually is and what God actually wants, and God's perspective of us and of reality. But before then, I was agnostic, so it's like I didn't need any kind of Jesus story, or someone that I needed to follow in order to verify what I know is true. But we're in a slave society where everyone only knows what the slave masters tell them, making them themselves an extension of the slave master, not of God. So what we do is we extend slavery by forcing everybody to do what we do and do what we want, because in a godless society, that's how the ones who rule control everybody. They replace God, like the Catholic Church did with Rome. They replaced God for everybody and made everybody worship the religious leader, which isn't how it's supposed to be. The religious leader is supposed to be like the Navajo. You kind of grow into it, and people know it, and they respect it because they know you're telling the truth. They can, you're not trying to run everybody's lives. You're not trying to force everyone to obey. The rule of law of the human world is the rule of the family under God. And that's it. Culture is just an extension of the family. And we are not designed to rule anything beyond that level. When we go beyond that, we enter a system of corruption that we create for others and ourselves to go by, because we don't know any better when we don't have that connection to God. We're in a state right now where we are taught to worship other people, and we won't believe the truth unless it comes from someone we worship. So it's like there's literally a lot of people out there that won't do anything good unless Snoop Dogg tells them to, or someone like that. And that's fucking crazy. But that's where we're at. We're in a gigantic whorehouse, plantation brothel, used to breed humans to be good dogs and good sex objects for the breeders and the masters, so that their economy thrives. and whatever religion they make up dominates. So it's a long way out, but only the truth will free us. And enforcing our individual beliefs and feelings as truth that others need to follow is antichrist. Because whether or not I believe Jesus is any kind of Messiah or not, we're supposed to believe he taught the truth and that the truth is the most important thing. But the people who push it are willing to lie to get people to salvation. And that's antichrist. It's the same people who push the flat earth stuff to become so popular. It's the same people who push all sorts of things to become popular that end up screwing a lot of people's lives so that they can teach others lessons. They use us and make us suffer and die to teach everyone else lessons. That's the slavery we have to stop, because they don't stop. They don't stop. If you go against their doctrine, anything they say is doctrine, they'll try to kill you. Except they'll do it in a way that makes it a lesson to everyone else so that nobody listens to you or anything you've ever said again. So, good luck, everybody.